uh, as a postdoc. So during that time, I visited many European countries because it's more around, right? So all nearby. So that was a good experience for me. And basically, my area is Drosophila genetics.
Oh, genetics. Okay.
Genetics with Drosophila.
Drosophila. Okay. Drosophila. Okay.
So that is one thing which is common between nutrition and Drosophila. Because a lot of research also has been made using Drosophila as a model in the area of nutrition and research.
Okay.
I did deliver one talk in the University of Mysore.
Yeah.
On nutrition using Drosophila as a model.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So can we start now?
So much is there. Still, so much is there you can do with Drosophila.
Okay.
So can we start now?
Yes.
Are you okay? Ready? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Om Shri Manjunathaya Namaha. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here in this virtual platform for an IQAC initiative InterCollegiate International webinar organized by Department of Biotechnology, MMK and SGM MMV Mysore. Let's begin the event with our principal note.
Hello, good morning to you all. I am very happy to announce that Department of Biotechnology is organizing one-day international webinar on plant-based food system. We welcome research scholars, faculties, industry personnel, UG and PG students as participants from different colleges, even from different countries. Dr. Molama Prabhakaran, Cardiff School of Sport and Health Sciences, Cardiff Metropolitan University, UK, is the resource person for the event. I thank her on behalf of our institution for accepting our invitation to share her knowledge and expertise with our students, and I wish the webinar a great grand success. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I express my heartfelt welcome to today's delegate speaker, Dr. Molama Prabhakaran. I also sincerely welcome Srimati Sukrita KS, IQAC Coordinator, our advisory members Dr. Ramesh and Dr. Satyamurthy. I also welcome all the faculties of Life Sciences Department and participants from various institutions and international participants as well. It's my immense pleasure to introduce today's speaker. Dr. Molama Prabhakaran is a lecturer in the School of Sport and Health Sciences at Cardiff Metropolitan University. She completed her PhD at National University of Singapore, where her research focused on quantification of phytochemicals in soybeans and soya-based products. Her postdoctoral research experience spans bioengineering, nanotechnology, stem cell differentiation, and drug delivery, with a particular focus on regenerating nerve, skin, bone, and cardiac tissues. In addition, she possesses extensive expertise in advanced analytical instrumentation and characterization techniques. Much of this work has been conducted in National University of Singapore, supervising PhD students through collaborations with international universities, including Donghua University from China, Universidad Nacional de Tucumán from Argentina, the Technical University of Munich, Germany, the Safran University of Technology, Iran, and Aarhus University, Denmark. A multidisciplinary researcher with extensive experience in materials and food science, she has published over 75 papers in international journals, achieving an H index of 65 with 16,000 citations. She worked on various projects, the National Medical Research Council, the National Research Foundation Singapore, also functioned as co-PI to grants including those from Danish Science Foundation, Denmark. She currently serves as a committee member of Institute of Food Science and Technology and acts as a reviewer for materials and food science journals. During her role as a lecturer at Singapore Polytechnic Singapore, she served as a student liaison officer to various food industries, including Takasogo, Silesia, DSM, Singapore Food Agency, and supervised student projects in collaboration with food companies like Corbion Asia Pacific, Mondanissen, Diana Foods. Her current research in Cardiff Metropolitan University focuses on natural materials, antioxidants, food waste valorization, including spent coffee grounds, edible coatings, plant based foods, and sustainability with social impact, with a strong interest in translating research into meaningful community outcomes. Her passion is to mentor girls in STEM and enhance the profound research. With this brief introduction, I request Dr. Molama to take over the session.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. Let me share my screen. I have shared the screen. Are you able to see?
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Do you want me to make it bigger?
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. Okay. Give me a moment. Sorry. Yeah. Good morning to all of you. And it's a pleasure having all of you in this conversation. And today, I would like to give a presentation mainly on plant-based food systems, opportunities for a sustainable future. So the talk will explore basically on plant-based food production using fresh sources. So that will be the first part of the talk. Moving on, I will talk about the valorization of food materials to enhance the sustainability and reduce the waste. So to start with, let me ask you a question. When you see your burger, say your favorite burger, what comes to your mind? Basically, it's a very juicy material. It's actually loaded with flavor. And this is all because of the protein, which is a vital for our body function. And it is part of every cell in our body. So meat itself is a good source of protein. But if you think over it, how much are we consuming? Are we consuming really a lot? Right? And is this meat consumption really a sustainable way of if we move forward? So if you look at all our meat-based diets, what we understand is that the rearing of animals and the animal agriculture itself is severely having an impact on the environment. Basically, it's a negative impact. It makes use of or consume a lot of water, and there is the greenhouse gas emissions. And overall, if you look at this, you can also see that there is a need for nutrient dense plant based foods. And also to keep in mind that the world population is growing and it is predicted to be around 9.8 billion people by around 2050. So if we look at the carbon footprint, so this is just to show you how the animal-based foods tend to have a higher or a larger carbon footprint. So most of the animals, basically, if it is beef, the lamb, the mutton, there is a larger carbon footprint compared to the plant-based products. For the plant-based products, the land use as well as the amount of carbon emissions are normally less when we consider products like tofu or cheese even. Sorry. Can you still see my slide?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So basically, the shift is what you see is basically a shift from the animal based products, and this is mainly because there are a lot of health and environmental effects that are considered as negative. And the current shift is basically from animal based products to a plant based product. So when we consider these plant based food, we are also mainly helping us with the environment conservation. So, in today's presentation, I would like to talk a few details about the alternative protein sources. And among this talk will mainly focus on the plants, legumes, and pulses. Basically, if you look at the protein-based food materials, basically the beans, the legumes, the nuts, and so on. However, these are not the only protein sources. There are other protein-based products which are also coming up and in the market, which comes from edible insects or the mealworms. And these are really available in some of the markets, probably in certain other countries like Bangkok and all. And the second generation plant-based meat analogs are coming from all the extruded products, or basically you also have yet another category, which is the cellular meat, in which you actually culture the meat, primary cells or the muscle cells, and you could actually embed them in a 3D structure. So you could actually have some hydrocolloidal structure, or even so, for examples like alginate or other things, and grow them in the form of a meat. But I will not be covering the cellular agriculture today, but instead I will mostly focus on the plant-based meat analogs. So just to give you some introduction about the various plant sources, soy protein, as we know that soy has been used for centuries. In the Asian cuisines, soy was actually plenty. It was really used plenty. So the main source of soy proteins where we are considering for this meat analog is basically the soy protein isolate and soy protein concentrate. This is because when you look at the differences between the soy protein isolate and concentrate, the soy protein isolate have a higher protein, which is almost like 90% protein present in it. And hence, it is better to use that instead of using a soy flour. While if you look at the soy protein concentrate, it will have a protein of more than 65%, but it is comparatively lesser protein compared to the soy protein isolate. And there are others which are also the cereal protein, which is basically the barley, the millet, the wheat, the oats, and so on. The legumes are also coming more into this market, as if the chickpeas, the lupin, the fava bean are highly used for meat analog preparation. This is also because they contain a good amount of protein in it. And yet, few other sources are the seed proteins and, say, peanuts and so on. Now, just to give you a glimpse about the global meat analog market, say it was almost like 1.1 USD billion, 1.1 billion USD in 2020, which is expected to rise to almost 2.1 billion USD by 2027. And as a starting point, most of the people actually started, or the manufacturers or the small scale producers actually started with the chicken nuggets or patties, because that was one of the easiest form of converting any kind of plant protein into a animal based product, or for example the chicken patty. Now there are three major techniques that are being applied in the plant based meat analog preparation. The first one is the shear cell, in which you will apply some controlled heat and mechanical shear to the plant protein and then convert them or to get a protein or a fibrous structure, so that you can actually mimic the structure of the chicken meat. Now, for the 3D printing, it makes use of a layer by layer deposition, so that you can have a precise design and still end up getting a fibrous structure for your meat analog. However, the technology of extrusion, especially high moisture extrusion, have taken over the world, and we will go through a few details on that in the coming slides. So when you talk about high moisture extrusion, I would like to give a little bit of an introduction about the extrusion itself, because extrusion or the extruder exists for many years. And basically, they were the dry version of the products that were being produced. So in those kind of extrusion, which is basically classified as a low moisture extrusion, you will end up getting those products which look like puffed materials or expanded materials, or probably you could look at the cereals that you eat every day. But when it comes to the meat analogs, you basically need an excess, still some amount of moisture present in it, so that you can obviously end up getting a fibrous texture. And that's where the high moisture extrusion came into picture. And in here, this is a process in which are forcing a protein-rich mixture with high water content through a die under heat and pressure, and that results in a fibrous meat-like structure. So yet again, once the meat-like structure is being formed, basically there are three things happening. One is a protein denaturation. After that, it aggregate, and then they align, because you need some fibers, some fibrous look for your meat material. Otherwise, when you chew your meat, and you may not end up getting that texture which is equivalent to your animal meat. So a single screw extruder was something in the beginning, meaning it was commonly used, but nowadays it has been changed to twin screw extruder, and there are many reasons for that. So let me give you an overview, and this is based on my experience, where I had a training on extruder in 2 or 3 occasions, where I used to go there and have this opportunity to visually get the training. So this is how an extruder looks like. It literally occupies the whole room. And the one which I was talking about just now is a twin screw extruder. And this twin screw extruder, for example, let's start from the beginning, where you actually add your raw materials. So this is your feed. So this is your hole in which you add your raw materials. Say, for example, you have your soy flour, you have your gluten, or you have all the dry materials is being added. Along with it, there is the apple being added. So this particular zone is divided into a feed zone, a mixing zone, a melting zone, in which the temperature and the pressure gradually increase. Ultimately, it reaches a dye, and near to the dye, that's a cool, yeah. And then you have your extrudate, which comes out. The dye can be in different shapes or sizes in which what you want to have it, like you can change it. Now, what are some advantages of this twin screw extruder? It's basically when you were using a single screw extruder, it has some disadvantages like it cannot accommodate too many multiple components in it. But in a twin screw extruder, you can have various materials, including some sticky raw materials, gums, or even a liquid, which is like up to 3% amount of oil in it. You can add your flavors, you can add some ingredients to increase the fiber content, so you can have some fibrous materials also. And these are some of the advantages of using the twin screw extruder. So I would like to give you a brief understanding about what is actually happening within the extruder. So firstly, there is the blending of the protein with water, which means there is a hydration of the protein happening. And then when it is getting mixed, which is actually the dry and the wet ingredients mix up, giving you the homogeneous mixture. And then you apply the shear and the heat such that the protein starts to denature, meaning the bones start to break. And within the melting zone, where you actually start to form the gel, and in here the temperature and pressure increase, and the protein actually separate into a continuous and dispersed phase until it finally reaches the melting zone where it relaxes, and that leads to the formation of the fibrous structure. Just to show you how it happens within each of the zones. Say, for example, on the left of this curve over here, which is indicated in a red dotted lines, you can see that moving from the feeding zone to the melting zone, the temperature gradually increases. The temperature can go even up to 140 to 160 or 180 degrees Celsius. And after that, it slowly cools down. So this is a phase where the relaxation of the protein structure happens. And it is also a very similar for the pressure, which is the blue line which is indicated in this graph. The pressure gradually increases. It can go up to 150 megapascal and further it drops. So what's actually happening is that totally the mechanism which is involved here is mixing of the proteins, polysaccharides, and all those. There is an unfolding of the proteins which is happening, which means all the hydrophobic tubes will be on the exposed towards the surface, and this finally results in aggregation of the protein and the alignment of the protein. So just to summarize as an overall process, usually this process is carried out with protein-rich powders. So you can use a chickpea isolate or a soy protein isolate or pea protein isolate and so on, so that they have high protein content in it. And water is added, as I said before. The high moisture extrusion really require a moisture content of more than 50%. That is the significance of calling this particular process as a high moisture extrusion. And twin screw extruder, you can actually move it. There are two different modes of operation. In fact, there are different shapes of the screw itself. So basically, they have a clockwise and a counterclockwise movement is possible. And ultimately, in the cooling die, where there is the protein molecule getting aligned to form the fibrous structures, and what comes out of the die, which is in the form of a meat chunk or a rectangular piece of a meat chunk. Once you obtain that, you can take it out, you can marinate with your spices, or you can actually freeze it down, or you can even make some shredded meat out of it. So these are some of the attempts by various researchers around the world, and this picture over here shows that how the product, the high moisture extruded product comes out of the die. This is like a sheet. You can cut them into smaller pieces. Use your fingers in your hands to open it up and see that, and you can see this kind of fibrous structure form. So you could also see the alignment in that. So scientists are always trying to optimize this and study and understand how is that alignment possible and how we can improve the chewy texture of the protein. So for that, they also add some other ingredients to enhance this particular structure. So here we are not just talking about chicken. People are also interested in other meat like pork, mutton, and so on. So generally, what I have seen during the process is that the gluten is also very stretchable material. So once you add gluten, there is a bit more of a fibrous material being possible with this. Now, just to move on, I thought this explanation on meat analogy is not complete without talking a bit about mycelium. So the fungal mycelia, the promising raw material that is used for the production of meat analogs. For those who are quite not sure about what is mycelium, it looks like this, which is in a culture plate. But what actually happens in nature, if you look at some of the images given here over here, it's basically a network of a root, network of which is below the soil. And what is seen on top is basically the mushroom itself, but what grows below, we call it as the mycelium. And this mycelium is actually a rich material for containing enough amount of protein in it. And what is the advantage of this material is that it has a resemblance to the animal protein, which is like just to say the fibrillar structure, because meat contains myofibrillar proteins in it. And probably all of you have come across the most popular company, which is called corn, and they were the first company who actually, or the organization who came up with this particular popular strain called Fusarium geninatum, and they made this meat analog. So basically, what you have to do is that you actually mix this mycelium with biomass with few gelling agents, gums, and finally you get that thicker mass which you steam it, chilling. You can do a steaming, chilling, and freezing such that you can modify the procedures to get a proper meat-like texture. I had the opportunity to do a short attachment program with one of the companies when in Singapore, and it was by Dr. Yashaswini. And what you can also think about is the substrates that can be used for the preparation of mycelium. So basically, the substrates, when we also look at it, there is another way of looking at it when you call it as a circular economy. This is because there are lots of materials that are being thrown away from the agricultural processing or within the field itself of the fruit and vegetable. When you do the processing, you throw away a lot of things. One of the example could be, say your wheat bran, or the another one could be, say, a tea waste material or a sawdust. These are some of the substrates which you can use to grow your mycelium, and that is where you call it as a solid state fermentation. Of course, there are other methods as well in which you can use a bioreactor and you can get pure material. So, and these are some companies, or if you are trying to buy meatless meat. And nowadays, even in here, I have seen a full rack or a food section which is basically meant for the meatless meat. So there are a separate area within the supermarket which they just call as, say, meatless meat section. And these are some of the companies: Beyond Burger, Impossible Foods, Gardening, Horn, and so on. Now let's try to understand a bit more about what are the other kinds of products that people are interested in. For example, for vegetarians or for people who do not want to have the real eggs, and they will be looking more to have plant-based eggs. And eggs have been a staple in our diet, and you will be surprised to know that the average consumption of around 161 eggs per person happens in a year. And because they contain cholesterol, and also some people have allergies to egg, and also people are more oriented about the animal welfare. Due to these reasons, people are slowly moving to have plant-based eggs. So to say that even when you are rearing your chicken or a chicks or your hen, there is a water footprint and a carbon footprint involved. I may not be touching much about the antibiotic injection or things like that, but just to say that there is an environmental impact of farming, the egg farming and growing the chicks. In addition to this, there is yet another need for having eggs. That's mainly because egg white a forming capability, meaning they can be used, they are popularly used in many of the bakery products where it can add that structural integrity to the product. So just to give you one example, here there is a plant egg which was produced by the thermal denaturation of plant protein. So this researchers actually used 20% potato solution at a pH of 7, where they tried to actually understand the denaturation. Why do we talk about the thermal denaturation? That's because let's go back to the basics of what an egg is. Because the egg itself contains globular proteins, which is basically in the egg white. Those are the ovalbumin, ovomucoid, and all. The lipoproteins basically the HDL, LDL. So these are in when it comes to thermal generation or cookability of the real eggs. So what basically happens is that when you heat the egg, it unfold meaning it becomes a bit extended format in which it can form network. And finally, what happens is that there is a sulfhydryl groups or the non-polar groups which get exposed to the surface, which gets aggregated, and that's where you actually have aggregated protein, and that's how your looks like after you have done your denaturation. And this is exactly what we or most of the scientists are trying to mimic when they actually want to make a plant-based egg in a liquid format. So this is probably some of you or most of you might have come across this. This is Evo Foods, and this is a plant-based egg company from India, and they have come up with this liquid egg. Now let's move on to the next one, which is a plant-based milk, or I should not be calling it plant-based milk. There's a reason for that, which I will explain later on. So let's call this as plant-based milk analogs. So when you talk about plant-based milk analogs, the first thing which comes to your mind, probably the one which is there for a long time, is actually the soy milk. So it's actually made up of. And so how does it look like? It's just a colloidal dispersion containing some particles, polymers dispersed in water, which include the oil droplets, the proteins, the aggregates, and the plant cell fragments. Now, if we want to make the plant-based milk, the sources that you can use are not just soybeans. You can have the plant-based milk made from rice, oats, cashew, or even millet or spelt. Or there are certain others which are also coming up including quinoa, amanat, and so on. Now, if you go to the Starbucks nowadays, you have noticed, or I did notice as well over here, that when you are ordering a cup of coffee, they will ask you what milk do you want. This clearly shows that if there are 5 cups of coffee, you can see that people are actually asking to replace the milk, cow's milk, with soy milk. So they will ask for a preference to have coconut milk in it instead of adding the cow's milk or an almond milk there or some oat milk there in their coffee, in the drink that they purchase. Now, just to give you some fundamental details as to how the process of going all the way from your grains or cereals, the particular, say, the almonds or the chickpeas or the peas or cashews, whatever you use, the basic step for processing and getting your milk remains the same. That is, first is the pre-processing step, followed by wet grinding, then the slurry formation, and a few filtration and separation steps or centrifugation and things like that. Ultimately, you homogenize, stabilize, and enrich and go for the aseptic packaging. However, it is important to note that a plant based drink may not be as equivalent to a cow's milk, and people are actually trying to do a comparison of these kinds of milk with the cow's milk. And you can definitely see that the almond milk still have less protein, while the soy milk have comparably similar protein that of the bovine milk. And I have also given a few companies which are involved in this, or the ones which are most popular. I'm sure that most of you have tasted oats milk or the oats drink, for example. Yeah. So Danone is a company. Alpro is a brand that comes out from them. Vita Soy is basically quite famous for soy milk and almond milk. Now, before I jump into the next details, I thought it is important to just show you one example at least, which is about oat milk. So this is also some of the experiments that we carried out in the lab as well. So you could have the rolled oats, you mix it with water, extract it, and you get your oat slurry. Do, do to, and do some enzymatic hydrolysis so that you further break it down and do a proper filtration, probably 6 or 8 layers to do that filtration. Remove the filter cake, then you will be getting oat milk. Again, it's important that people like when you consume the milk, you consider it as a full protein being consumed. You have all the essential amino acids in it, and that's why whenever you are a plant-based milk manufacturer or plant-based drink manufacturer, we will always compare the different amino acids present in cow's milk versus the oat milk, and you can definitely see that there is some compromise happening over here. And since I'm talking about the oats and plant-based milk, I thought it's important to show this latest news, which was in going on recently. This is from just 1 month before. The UK Supreme Court confirms that milk cannot be used on its label. So any plant-based product should be written as plant-based drink, especially Oatly was actually, unanimously ruled that Oatly, which is the drink producer, cannot use the phrase as oat milk. So probably this is something which is very important. We should consider in UK should be called as a plant-based drink. So these are some examples which many of you might have tried. Please try some of them. The Alpro is one brand which is quite famous. The Oatly, all these brands are available. And since we are talking about the plant-based milk or plant-based drink, it is quite natural that we can also move a step further and make the plant-based cheese. Of course, there are 700 to 2,000 types of cheeses out there. It is a complex colloidal dispersion where the liquid droplets are incorporated in the viscoelastic polysaccharides and proteins. And in here, for example, on the left, you can see that this is faba bean protein, which was being used along with carboxymethyl cellulose so that it can act as a binder and improve the texture. And overall, it can help to create that binding properties as well. So people are trying on different kinds of combinations of protein with gums. And here they try to mimic the ricotta cheese. So somewhat they say it looks similar. And this was a control sample. And you could see that it looks somewhat similar. But keep in mind that when we have cheese, which actually comes from a single primary ingredient, which is our cow's milk. But in this particular case, there are multiple ingredients involved, and so the texture is sometimes compromised. And of course, even if we try to use a cereal pulse combination, there are some quality improvement required, especially in terms of the nutritional um, benefits that are being involved. Now, I would like to move to the second part of today's talk, which is about food sustainability. And to start with, this is about agricultural food waste. So, for example, you can see that when in the field, agriculture field itself, there are a lot of residues which are being created depending on what kind of the agriculture it is. Maybe it is a wheat, barley, or so on. So there is stems, stalks, straws, and seeds and pods which are being thrown out. At the same time, if you look at further processing of the, say, for example, groundnut or coconut oil, or even certain food industry, you could see that there is a lot of waste being created. One example would be the coconut oil being extracted and you throw away the cake, which is a solid material which looks something like this. And in the fruit juice industry, you can see a lot of fruit peel waste is being thrown out. And if you are working in a beer industry, you can see that there's a lot of, after the extraction, there's a lot of spent grain being thrown out. So these are some examples of how the waste is being created in the food industry, or some of them you are even creating within your own home. Yeah, so it's actually in our own homes we can see all this. So here comes the circular economy, and we have to move away from the linear economy. In the linear economy, you just take, make, use, and that's the way you actually make your product and dispose of the remaining products. But it's time that we move to the circular economy where it offers a solution, especially to the growing waste problem, food waste problem. So, what does it mean, or what does it exactly do? So basically, you have a lot of production, say, going on, and then you convert the products, you consume the products, and then you throw the food waste. Make sure that you classify or segregate them as edible waste and non-edible waste, and think about, especially in a food industry, you have those hygienically prepared waste that is being coming out. Can we actually reuse, recycle, recover, or can we actually make some functional food out of it? So that is where it comes in. That means you are actually having a circular economy where you are transforming the materials which are the byproducts into something which is very useful, rather than throwing it into the dustbin or into the incineration plant or to the landfill. So it's considered as a viable strategy both on economic perspective, environmental perspective, and has its own social advantages. So coming to some general details, this is from RAP. RAP is a Waste and Resource Action Program. So they actually have a lot of resources they have provided. In that, you can see that the overall food waste is made up of, over here you can see that 58% of the food waste comes from household as well. And we should generally try to prevent the waste where it occurs. That is, at the first step itself, can be prevented. If we cannot prevent, and if something is formed, can we recycle, recover, can we actually reintroduce some materials out of it, or some functional products, or some actively develop it into, recreate them into some useful product, and then disposal is the last thing we should think about. Now, I also thought that it is very important in this context that the UK bakery industry is growing, and I thought that to share with you, because is this an area where we can actually tap on some of these waste materials? Now, I would like to jump into some of the research that we have been carrying out. So basically, I have worked on the kidney beans, lentils, and chickpea, in which we tried, in my research group, my students actually tried to extract the milk out of these and prepare the milk. It is really depending on the basic procedure which is involved in the preparation. But at the same time, the major issue that happens is the sedimentation. And the The stabilization of this product is basically you carried out using different types of gums. So you could try on various gums and understand their concentration and their effects, either singular in a single way, or you can actually do some combination of gums as well and try. Now, I would like to take your attention to one of the coffee shop or some of the coffee shops, or in general, what you see in the coffee shops as to how the waste is being generated. So first, the coffee is grind using a grinder, and then it goes to your extract machine where you extract the coffee, comes out, and then you have your spent coffee grind, which is being a watery, a kind of moisture material being thrown away. So imagine there are hundreds and thousands of kgs of spent coffee grind being thrown away. That's just one example. Let's look at the fruit juice production. What happens? There's a lot of fruits being in the fruit industry. They extract the juice, and after they are bottled, the juices are bottled. You have a lot of waste being created, and this is citrus peels, pommies, and seeds, which are again thrown into the dustbin.
Excuse me.
Now,
Can you please make it slideshow?
yeah. Yeah. When I do the slideshow, I can't move the slide, so I don't know why.
Okay.
But let me try again. So this is a processing of soybeans to soy products. So basically, it is about the soybeans ultimately grinding, extraction, and making the soy milk, and you have the byproduct, which is called the okara, or the soybean residue. And then you actually do a coagulation of the soy milk, ending up getting the tauqua. This was actually a part of my PhD work as well. Yeah. So how can you take all these details, that the examples which I provided just now, how do we convert this into a circular economy principle? How do we apply this circular economy principle? And this is where some of my research was also involved, where the first one on the left, which is your orange peel powder, and this is actually, the students actually made it from the orange peel itself. And we also have this lemon peel powder. But on the right, what you see is the spent coffee ground that we obtained from the coffee shop. The student actually got it from there. And then we converted them into a usable format by certain pre-processing. And that is where you have your spent coffee ground in a fine powder format. Yet another one is like the corn cob that we eat, and we throw away the cob, and it is a hardy material, but it does have two different layers inside if you actually go through it. And again, we try to use them or convert or do some pre-processing, and that's where you got this corn cob material, the powdery material there. Okara, which is a soybean residue, was also a kind of pre-processing carried out in order to get this dry material, so that we can use these raw materials and convert them into food products. And this is where the first picture, the dark cookies that we made, where we try to convert most of these raw materials into functional foods. Because bakery products is quite popular here, we went with cakes, muffins, cookies, biscuits, crackers, and things like that. So the first one you can see that is the spent coffee ground. We try to increase the incorporation from 10% to even up to 50% we tried. And we could see that there is an increase in the functionality of the product, especially in terms of the fiber and the antioxidants present in it. Similarly, if you look at the other ones, which is the orange peel powder, carrot peel powder, or the carrot peel, apple peel, and orange peel, which was being used to make muffins and cakes. And also, similarly, the cookies were made using different concentrations of the soybean residue was incorporated, and we made the cookies. And I would also like to share some of my research background through this slide, where on the right side, where I'm showing is actually about my research, where probably some of you are interested in contacting and having some collaborative research. I work on biopolymers, basically working on edible films and also extending the shelf life of the fruit product. I also can do the encapsulation where I work on different antioxidant bioactive materials, which is being extracted from a lot of natural materials. So in food valorization and technology related encapsulations and food analysis work. So I'm basically a food and a materials scientist. Just to conclude, are there any challenges? Yes, exactly. There are lots of challenges, especially when it comes to the meat-based products or the plant-based meat, which we were just talking about. The texture and the sensory replication is really, really a challenging aspect because you need to, when you eat your meat, you actually get the juiciness coming out of it. It gives a proper mouthfeel, and can we replicate that in the plant-based products, which is a challenge. How about the flavor? If you're using a lot of plant-based protein materials, they do have an off flavor. One of the typical example, even if the plant-based milk, if you look at it, the soy milk was not really acceptable in the Indian market for quite a long time. So you can also imagine the proteins, whether it is a chickpea protein or a pea protein or a soy protein, sometimes you have to mask those flavors, which is being the off note that comes out of it. Then comes a nutritional balance. Can the plant protein based products be equivalent to provide all the nutrients which is being present in the normal milk or in the normal chicken or any kind of meat that you are preparing? And how is its bioavailability? These are some of the things that need further investigation and where the world is currently working on. So there are processing complexity, ingredient functionality, consumer acceptance, cost, scalability are all issues. Sustainability still have some trade-offs there because you use water and certain other resources again to make these kind of plant-based drinks and other things. Now the safety testing is very important. And just to conclude, this is a plant-based foods represent a promising shift towards sustainable and resilient food system supported by innovations such as high moisture extrusion. So food-based valorization and product reformulation contribute to the circular economy, and also it improves the resource efficiency. And we are very hopeful that ongoing advances will enhance the product quality, affordability, and the consumer acceptance. So I would like to end this presentation, but I would really like to acknowledge my students who worked on some of these projects, Jai, Roslyn, and Lishma, and Shari. And also there are many other students as well. And I acknowledge my university for its support and resources. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my previous organization, which is Singapore Polytechnic, where they provided me an opportunity for extruder training. And thank you. And you can contact me in this email just to initiate your contact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful presentation. Any questions, audience? Can you? Yes, sir.
I have a couple of not questions, but kind of remarks and complementation to the speaker. You have wonderfully narrated. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, you have wonderfully narrated and given us a bird's eye view of what's going on in the current situation, along with your present kind of research that is going on. Well, in this context, I would like to bring to your notice a couple of points. You mentioned about mushrooms and mycelium as a food source. In fact, I am in touch with Dr. Yashaswini, which you mentioned. Yeah, in fact, he is offering one certificate course for our students on mushrooms and mycelial technologies. That goes for one semester and then 30 hours of practical experience, etc.
Okay.
Further, I just wanted to get to know from you whether soy milk is preferred by people, or I know that many people are hypersensitive to soy milk. What's your take on that?
When you say hypersensitive, I just want to clarify. Are we talking about the components in the milk, or are you talking about just the sensitivity within the mouth? Because why I ask this question is, my PhD was actually on isoflavones. These are the phytochemicals which are present in the soy milk. And basically what we found is that it has a chalky flavor inside your on the tongue for some people, whether it like Indian many, on the Indian context or in the western context, they were not really accepting this flavor. And there are several aldehydes like green aldehyde, basically we call them as hexanol, and all those compounds which are also responsible for this. So I was also trying to like working with the companies which were producing soy milk. We had a collaboration with a company called Unicurd as well. And probably I wouldn't like to explain too many things in a platform like this because it is a company based project. But what I want to suggest is that even companies are trying to understand how can we reduce that particular flavor or that particular tinge that comes into the mouth. So I'm not sure whether it's about insensitive or sensitivity would mean that flavor that comes into the mouth, or is it inside your stomach
Yeah,
that you are
yeah.
feeling? Yeah. So
That's what exactly, because soy chunks are very popular here as an
yeah.
as an alternative for meat, and many people relish that, putting it to their foods in different forms. But I know personally, I know, and also from my contacts, I know soy chunks are not tolerated by many, because once it gets into your stomach, then you will have some kind of hyperacidity. Flatulence is there, and then they feel a lot of discomfort and things like that. So that's what I meant. Uh, um, Irritating bowel syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
People they cannot accept.
Yeah, so people are actually, there are several. I came across a lot of people over here, and that was something extensive number of people having gluten intolerance, soy
Yeah,
intolerance, milk intolerance, even chocolate and coffee intolerance causing problems around their neck. And so
exactly.
it is now a serious issue, and it starts from so there are different studies starting from the mother itself. So they say that the environment has a big impact on how the kids are, the infant is being delivered, and it has also, it's starting from there. There is a big change required, and because we consume a lot of products which have lots of unwanted things as well, so we can't literally blame or identify a problem, but there are various factors which overall contribute to this. So nowadays there are more and more people, more and more uh, kids actually having this kind of tolerance.
Yes.
And there is a purposeful way of removing gluten or soy or even dairy from the diet. People are adopting that as well.
Yeah, yeah. In this particular context, I would like to put it across that we are all good in taking and tolerating traditional foods. Yeah, and I believe that in recent times, for the past 3 or 4 decades, there has been a lot of change in our diet and menu, etc., etc. Because many things we get from abroad or from different states in India itself, uh, which uh, which are not quoted or used in our traditional foods. As a matter of fancy or intercontinental availability of different kinds of food material, we prefer to eat what is not normal to us. So in this context, I strongly believe that traditional foods are tolerated by not only us, anybody for that matter, what is being grown in that particular area and that is being consumed over centuries, over centuries. So these problems never prevailed because I know from my own family, we were all happy with whatever is available regionally, locally. But these problems have cropped up in recent times. But you don't, you're not, you'll be very sensitive to particular food, particular, flavor, or your body won't accept these things, etc. We are compelled to prevent the usage of those food material. So I believe that traditional foods have altered our genetic material epigenetically, so that we are all, compatible with that. Over centuries, our epigenetic modifications, they have allowed us to prevail normally. But
Wonderful.
this mix-up may create some problems and also sensitivity issues, etc., etc.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So as far as milk sources are concerned, my own personal experience, taking coffee or tea without milk is good for, for its beneficial properties, right?
Yeah.
Once you add the milk, its beneficial qualities are gone. But we are not used to take black coffee or black tea as such. But scientifically, it is good enough having coffee or tea without milk. But on the other side, I have seen, I have experienced taking coffee with coconut milk is wonderful. Really, the real aroma and taste of coffee you can enjoy, well, not with bovine milk, but with coconut milk.
Yeah, in the Starbucks, I think coconut milk is highly flavor. Like most people, I have seen many students also taking coconut milk. I have tried oat milk and almond milk into my tea, but they were good as well. Making a porridge out of, when you have your porridge, you can also use those instead of the animal milk.
Yeah, yeah. With coconut milk, it tastes wonderful.
Yeah, because it also have the medium chain fatty acids, which are also good for health. Of course, that is again another way of debating it, but medium chain fatty acids are still good.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, Dr. Shweta.
Yes, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, coconut milk even they'll add for the sweets as well, I guess, for kheer.
Um,
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions from audience? You can leave in the chat box as well. Yes, Pannaga, you can ask the question.
Good evening, ma'am. Today's session was truly a wonderful one. I'm so glad I was able to join the session. It was very
Thank you so
informative.
much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the session. I just wanted to ask a basic question that usually runs around in our mind. So, there is this concept or there is this thought that usually the vegetarians or the vegans lack the nutrients that is required from the food source they are consuming. Specifically, they say that there is a lack of proteins through the vegetarian or vegan food. So, what is your take on that?
I would stand to just say that the protein based foods nowadays are overly exploited out there. But when we are talking about the Indian diet where people are eating a lot of vegetarians, actually we should not be concerned too much about having less intake of protein, because you are having your dal and rice, or you are having your green gram chickpea, or all those things during every day in your diet. But I think the protein hype basically came because as you grow older, you will actually consume less amount of food, and through that you will also consume a little less amount of protein as well. So there is a required amount of protein. Like if I still remember correctly, it should be at least 25 gram per kg weight of your material, your body weight. Based on that, there is a recommended amount of protein that you should eat. And as you grow older, even at 50 or 60, the amount of protein you should eat becomes higher compared to what in the earlier age, because protein helps also in building your mass muscle and things like that. So for your question as to vegetarian diet, there are issues also related to people, not just talking about protein, but about others like B12 or maybe iron. These are some of the micronutrients that have been raised as having been deficient in people who are just eating vegetarian, who are just vegetarians. So I wouldn't say it's just protein, it's probably the other elements or other heme related things. So for that, people, for example, calcium, iron, and things like that, it is still present in some of the vegetables or the green leafy vegetables like kale or spinach. But what could be the problem? There is oxalic acids or oxalates present in them, which are the nutrients which can prevent the absorption of some of these minerals. So when they are together, that is also some issues. But people have, like, the research has shown that if you want to have iron, then have it along with the vitamin C so that it can improve your absorption. Like nowadays, when you say that when calcium absorption can be improved with the presence of, say, vitamin K or vitamin D. So these are some of the, the research is being, exploded and improving over time. So that is giving you a lot of information, and we can actually adjust our, how we eat, how we manage. You can make your own chart and understand what am I consuming, how much is my protein intake, and you can actually monitor those and improve those. I hope I answered what you like to know.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nowadays there are some apps in
Yeah.
the mobile which will actually provide a kind of facility where you can calculate how much you have to eat at this age. Your height is this much and your weight is this much and things like that. So
Yes.
that's an app that is being available now.
Yeah, the app has gone to a level that you can even scan the product, and after just scanning, so here people are using the app just to scan the product after they eat, and then they say this product, how many grams I ate, and it will automatically calculate.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any queries? You can even leave a message. Okay. You can even contact Dr. Molama with the email ID if there are any queries or any information you need to acquire regarding the topic.
Yeah, you can always contact me in this ID first. I have given a Gmail ID in the chat. You can contact me there just to initiate your conversation on anything. If you also need to understand something about food science or any higher education based studies or PhD or your masters or any details, you are always welcome. I'm more of a researcher than of a teacher, probably.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
highlighting the importance and methodology of plant-based foods. Thanks for acknowledging our request to be delegate speaker in spite of your busy schedule. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation. And it was a pleasure, speaking to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also thank
Thank you.
Ramesh sir for all the support and guidance. Thank you so much, sir. With this note, we are ending this webinar. Thank you, one and all. The feedback link will be shared. And also the contact information or the contact ID also will be shared to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Nice
Thank you.
speaking.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh. Thank you. Bye. See you.
ನಾನು ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡೆ. ಸೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎರಡಕ್ಕೂ ಹಾಕಿರಲಮ್ಮ. ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೇನೆ.